when I do financial planning with people, right, I have be talking about the TV costs and subscriptions or da. And it's important. I understand it's important for entertainment. At the same time, can it be balanced in your life? And so as you look at your life, where are the places that give you the most joy?
Welcome to One with the Other Way, a podcast about your journey and finances. I'm your host, James. We have Wanda with us today, and we are actually talking about why everything feels so expensive right now. I've seen it's definitely a hot topic online. I've seen a lot of clickbait posts about it. Wanda, you've probably heard people talk about, back earlier in the summer or earlier this year, we had the price of eggs being really expensive. We had just everyone noticing things. And I myself sometimes feel when it goes to the grocery store, it is a little bit more expensive. But let's kind of go deeper into this a little bit. We've got Wanda with us. We have a certified financial planner with us that can help us understand what this looks like in our lives and how we can navigate this. So, Wanda, I kind of wanted to just talk about this first with you. Where are you primarily seeing people talk about increased expenses?
I have seen people talk about increasing expenses. We went through a whole summer thing about eggs, which isn't really, it's just like one item that we're buying, just a couple eggs a day. However, we talked an inordinate amount about it. And part of it was inflation, but part of it was some kind of disease thing that was causing us to not have as many chickens producing. And so then there's a lot of clickbait like, hey, what's going on with the price of eggs? But nominally, we're looking at our grocery bills, and the grocery bills are a little bit higher. Fuel costs a little bit more. Employees cost a little bit more. We will get inflation. And statistically, we were up 3.3%, 3.4% year over year. Well, it's more than it used to be, right? And then we have that recency bias where we didn't have any inflation for so long. Fed wants 2.5%. We're at almost 3.5%. Is it too high? Well, it is more. Things will cost more.
Do you feel in looking at maybe clients that are older or longer in their journey versus people who are just starting out, are you seeing a difference in how quickly people are able to grow their portfolios in this time at all, or is that kind of remained the same?
So you have two different groups of people. You have the older people. And by the way, the older people are the wealthiest Americans. Americans over the age of 60, 65 are considered the wealthiest Americans. A lot of them have pensions, they have retirement plans, and they have discretionary income. They're generally spending around 10 or 15% of their income on housing. So they have more discretionary income. Are they building? Not necessarily building their investments. It's younger people who are looking to try to work on their investments and their bottom line. Yeah, so inflation, it will affect the younger people more because we're still in the process of accumulating things, right? You need things and you're buying things and you find you don't have as much discretionary income. Younger people generally have about 50% of their income going to rent. So they have to be really focused on financial planning in a way that they can maximize the remaining 50% of their paycheck, whereas older people, they're in a different space, right? They have bought a lot of their things. And in general, they're spending maybe around 15% of their income on housing because of certain things that have gone their way, lower mortgage rates, higher income, that kind of thing. So they have a lot more resources to devote to financial planning. And then it becomes really important for younger people to get really focused on what they need to do to get to the place that they want to be.
Well, I wanted to kind of go into, you mentioned, younger people are spending upwards of 50% on rent. And we've had a previous podcast where we talk about, how much money you should be spending or allocating to your rent. And, we've seen 30, you've seen 50, and you're saying 15% for some of our wealthiest earners. And my question then is, where are you seeing cash flow here maybe having issues? Is it an income issue, or do you think there's actually an expense issue that is leading to this?
Well, it's an answer of this and that. Both increased expenses are there, and higher costs for what they want. And so then it's even more important to step back and say, what's important for me, right? And then we start talking about feelings. How do I want to feel in the place that I live? And in that regard, how much do I want to spend on the place I live? And how much do I really need versus what it is that I really want? And the idea is I do want you to have a real life today, but in balance for what it is that you want in the future. So it's important to look and see and identify without the emotional ties. So a financial advisor can be looking at the zeros and ones and say, this is what this gets you in the long run. If we did this, then this could happen. If we had this possibility. You're not going to get away from inflation and what things cost. And in general, rent is going to be the fair market value in your market. And so these are things that you have to live within, right? This is the environment you have to live within. And then you have to figure out the best way to navigate that to have the life that you really want.
A lot of different things can be causing this. Do you find that the necessities in life have changed? Like what is necessary to live on today is changed?
Yeah, that's funny that you say. And this is a world of ants. I remember when I was growing up and I was going 10 miles uphill in the snow. You might not remember that, but I remember 10 miles
My mom
on the
said
way
the
home
same
and on the way
thing.
to work. So we're on the way to school. So we definitely do have a different environment. And I think I think Starbucks, like, for example, we cannot live without a good cup of coffee, a good latte. And we crave it. And it's part of our social scene in the moment. But I have to laugh because I think the first Starbucks came in the early 80s, I think. It was just a cup of coffee. That's what it was. And then they introduced latte. Oh my goodness. And then we have to have the lattes. And so I think back in 1990, there was only 3 Starbucks. And I want to think now there's over, I think, 20,000 Starbucks in the US. I mean, like, you can't
Probably.
go
I wouldn't be
with,
surprised
yeah.
if it's a way above that.
Not to mention the local coffee shops, which are just such a treat, right? Not to mention like the major chain piece. Not to mention at the grocery store that they have the Starbucks there. So is that really a need? Do I really need to have a good cup of coffee? And how often do I need it? And if I'm spending $6 or $7 for it, as much joy as that gives me, maybe that's something that's more of a want versus a need. And maybe I can balance that off with something else in my life. You don't want to take all the joy away in life because you only go through this road once. So you want to
Yeah.
have a balanced approach. And I think the answer on the multifaceted thing is it's really an approach of this and that. This and that can be important. I can identify what my future looks like, and then I can live with what's in my current environment and then navigate ways that I can decide what is more important in the now versus what's important in the future.
So, talking about what's important, a lot of people still
Hmm.
want to buy homes. They still want to own a home. I was just talking recently with my father-in-law about how hard it is. At least he was saying it must be so much harder for you now to try to buy a home than it was when we were growing up. Do you find that when you combine these main goals of most people, combined with the increased expenditures on, say, coffee and going out, or maybe it is the grocery store. Do you think that it's stable, or do you think something's going to have to change there?
I attribute wanting to buy a home to the American Realtor Association. And, because they have marketed and put out that if you don't own a home, you are just nobody. I mean, I
Oh
moved
yeah.
to California and I rented for, I think, 8 years. It is not always a good idea to buy a home. It is a purchase of a major, major thing. And it really might not be fitting in your financial life. And it may actually be better to rent. And for many people, when you look at the numbers, renting is better than buying in a moment. Doesn't mean it forever. It just means in this moment. And if I can step back and take emotion away from it and say, okay, in the arc of my life, where and when is it possible to own a home if that's important to me? And then how can I navigate it using the limitations of where I am at today? I will say that anyone can own a home if you want to. It just is a matter of planning and being patient with yourself, which is really hard in today's world, right? Because we want everything fast. I want it yesterday, now. In the age of computer, if my computer screen window doesn't open immediately, oh my goodness, my computer is so slow. Everything we want it instant. And so I have to say, we need to slow down. We need to exhale. And that's actually a yoga thought, right? We need to exhale. It's all going to work out okay. Everybody's going to have a life. And sometime you might own a home and sometime you might not. Only about 2/3 of Americans own a home, by the way.
Yeah.
The highest home ownership actually occurred right before the 2007-2008 home crisis. And at that time, about 68 or 69% of us owned homes. So right now, around 62, 63%. So it
Yeah.
really is 2 out of 3 of us own a home. So don't feel terrible because 1 out of 3 of us don't own homes. And it is okay. You are okay.
Well, and then again, going to other, you said, you brought in the computer. You said
Mhm.
that, we want this instant gratification in a way. That's another thing that's kind of come up in the last, 20, 25 years, where
Right.
the cost of electrical goods have increased. I mean, I could think my parents probably never had to pay internet bills back, you know, back when they were much younger, when they were starting out. Whereas like
No, it
now,
wasn't a
yeah, your
thing.
utilities have increased. If you're owning a home or if you're renting, if you're wanting anything to do with subscriptions, using those computers, if you want to, have a streaming service, or I feel like there's a lot of luxuries that we have that almost feel necessary. But again, to the earlier question, are they actually
Are they?
necessary?
Right. They may feel necessary, but are they necessary? So back in your parents' day, there was 3 free channels. And then we went
Yeah.
into the massive internet, hundreds of channels. And now we're going into the streaming service, which arguably is probably going to cost us more as we stack our streaming services.
Yeah.
Yet truly, and back to my going uphill 10 miles uphill. I do not own a TV. I have not owned a TV in my 63 years. And
Wow.
when I do financial planning with people, right, I have be talking about the TV costs and subscriptions or da da da. And it's important. I understand it's important for entertainment. At the same time, can it be balanced in your life? And so as you look at your life, where are the places that give you the most joy? Is it watching the latest rerun of I don't know what, is it Friends? What's the latest movie thing to
I
watch?
mean, a lot of people rewatch The Office. I feel like that's the most
Yeah.
popular show.
What, is it right? Is it the latest rerun of Office that's giving you joy that you were able to get on your streaming service? Or is it the cup of coffee you had at the kitchen table with your spouse, your friend,
Mm,
talking about how your day was? And then maybe we can trim something that isn't giving you as much joy when we talk about it, when you sit back and think about it. And I'm not suggesting that you don't need to have a TV either, because I
no,
did,
yeah.
yeah, I did finally buy a TV. So
Well, you got to
not
watch the
really
Chiefs somehow.
exactly my Chiefs. I was like, I was only watching highlights, and I can't put it in my schedule to go to the games. So I
Hmm.
actually got a streaming service. So technically not a TV, but a streaming service. And so I'm joining the masses. I can't beat them, join them, right? So I think the important thing is to consider the balance of what gives you joy today, and then at the same time looking at the future.
So my wife and I do this. We like to sit down and have like a monthly conversation on, what the needs actually are, and we kind of look at the
Hmm.
inflows and outflows, and we
Hmm.
discuss, is this are we in a spot that we like, or we want to keep making changes? Do you find that people who more frequently look at budgets or their cash flow
Yeah, it's a
are
funny
able
thing,
to
right?
accurately assess the actual necessities?
It's a funny thing I think about time. Time goes fast and it goes slow. And so one of the things I do love doing is sitting down with my families and saying, hey, what's the latest in your life? What's going on? What's giving you joy? And what do we need to do to refocus on what the future looks like? What do you like about today? What do you want to capture? And how can we fit that into the future? And I think stopping and having an assessment periodically is a good idea. And it doesn't, a lot of people do it around the New Year's. It doesn't have to be around the New Year's. It can be just at any time, carving out time to look at your life and see what's going on. Take the time in the moment because it does go quickly, right? One day you're like, 40 years old working in a financial planning firm, and then the next day you're 63, right? Like, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
right? Applying for
time
Medicare.
time flies fast.
Yeah, it seems like yesterday. So I think it's important to sit down and assess. And doing it with a professional helps because you can look at the dollars and cents without the emotion. And we can say, okay, this is what this is costing you. Is that really giving you the value you want out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing here is that Wanda is a professional and you
I
can
know.
meet with her. You can find us at financesforreallife.com. You can schedule an appointment with Wanda on the top right of the homepage. And we also have this podcast. We post every 2 weeks. You can follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. And we're also on social media now, too. So you can find us on Instagram at Finances for Real Life. We're also on LinkedIn, and you can find us there. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And Wanda, thanks for your insights. And we appreciate it. We look forward to seeing people in the next episode. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Finances for Real Life, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.